Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 18 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormick. During today's show, we will discuss best practices with data center and cloud optimization strategies in the federal government. With me on today's show are Tom Santucci, Director, Data Center and Cloud Optimization Initiative PMO at GSA. Bill Hunt, Assistant Director, Cloud Center of Excellence, Security and Exchange Commission. Dr. Mark Lucas, Director of Cloud Computing Operations, Department of Homeland Security. Zach Goldstein, Chief Information Officer at NOAA. Michelle Rudnicki, Vice President, NetApp's U.S. Public Sector. Nick Saki, Principal Technologist, U.S. Federal Pure Storage. And Lamont Copeland, Managing Director, Federal Solutions Architect at Verizon Business. Well, this continues to be a super important subject. We've got a great mix of folks on the panel today, representing a lot of different agencies and partners. Tom, I want to start with you by congratulating GSA and applauding you for the leadership of your organization, the playbooks, the summits, the cross-pollination that you continue to have across the community. Give us a top line of where things stand from your perspective.
Okay, thanks for that intro, Luke. You know, in October, the federal government data center optimization initiative sunset after the agencies received an A on the FETARA scorecard for DCOI. This was a huge success that Congress and the CFO Act agencies celebrated. We've closed thousands of data centers, tiered and non-tiered, and saved the taxpayer nearly $6.4 billion in cost savings over the past decade on data centers. Even without a formal policy, this doesn't mean data center and cloud optimization is over in the federal government. In fact, our team is continuing to work with agencies on exploring government challenges, securing and managing its growing amount of data in hybrid environments. And sustainability and ways to using metrics to track federally owned buildings using sustainable outcomes is still a thing. And examine the amount of the greenhouse gas emission reduction using a more sustainable environment such as cloud or data center colo.
A lot of various activities there, and we really do appreciate, again, all the leadership that's happening across the ecosystem based on the guidance coming from GSA. Bill, you are in a what I like to call a small but mighty entity over there, and I know you all are doing a lot of interesting things. Give us a top line as to where you all are on your journey in regards to cloud activities, et cetera.
Sure. Well, I mean, as you mentioned, the SEC is a little bit of a special agency. We are a small agency. We are not subject to FETARA. We're not one of the CFO Act Big 24, but we are still a pretty relatively big agency of about 8,000 people, right? So we're about 3 times bigger than the Small Business Administration, which is actually a cabinet agency and a CFO Act agency, a so-called large. So that presents interesting.
Fun factoid.
Yeah. So that's the previous agency I'm coming over from by comparison. So understanding the difference in size and how that can change how your approach to cloud looks. I'll say overall, I've been at a bunch of federal agencies. I think y'all know. I was over at OMB overseeing the cloud program for the federal government as cloud policy lead for a few years. And the adoption of cloud has really ramped up very, very quickly as a result, I'd say, of the pandemic more than anything else. The use of collaboration tools, the use of all of these wonderful video chat features that we're all using right now, all of this sort of thing. We really went from a stance where we were a little gun shy about how we were moving into the cloud to everybody just going full tilt into it because we had to. That's how we were going to work and collaborate directly. So that's been, you know, the pandemic has been horrific and terrible, but as far as federal cloud adoption, it's really spearheaded that effort. I'll say in no small part to having TIC 3 come out just like 4 months before the pandemic hit. That was a key policy change that enabled a lot of these things that we're seeing right now. As far as the SEC goes, you know, we've rapidly been moving towards the cloud. We've had some stumbles over the years trying to figure out our path in the cloud. And we recently stood up a brand new cloud team focused solely on getting us where we want to go. And that's been relatively successful over the last 18 months in moving us ahead. Specifically, we've only moved about 10% of our on-prem apps over, but at this point, we've gotten our time to delivery from months down to days and weeks. That has been a major change for us. Security review takes days, not months now, for apps moving into the cloud environment. We're just getting those new increased capabilities very, very quickly. We're getting better security. We're getting better delivery time. All of those wonderful benefits that come with cloud as a result of making these sorts of investments.
Yeah, the community went from, is it secure to go into the cloud? Is it secure to not go into the cloud? Then we went to, of course we're in the cloud. So it's a journey for the entire ecosystem, and I'm glad to hear about the increased velocity over there at SEC. Dr. Lucas, I know we're going from a small and mighty entity to a very large entity, and I know you all have had a tremendous amount of activity going on over there. Give us a top line as to the state of the state these days in regards to the cloud initiatives at DHS.
Good afternoon, Luke. Good afternoon, everyone. So as the public's already aware, we moved out of our previous Tier 3 data center in Southern Virginia some time ago, where the majority of our systems were migrated to the cloud or they were decommissioned, which is a major achievement for the department. Simultaneously, we awarded the data center and cloud optimization contract that serves as a foundation for the management and integration of what we're calling the hybrid compute environment, which includes our on-premises environments, co-location facilities, and cloud-based environments. Some of the key components, Luke, of the award I'd like to highlight on this call, and a result of identifying the need to enhance our management of the HCE, include improved total cost of ownership and cost transparency. We integrated and established the dashboard that's now providing near real-time cost transparency and visibility to components using the HCE that's provided by the contract. And we've increased the flexibility around modernization and optimization of our HCE, having expanded our infrastructure and availability to include the use of co-location facilities and the use of solutions like Office 365, supporting distributed processing, direct connection with the cloud service providers. We've improved bandwidth utilization and the logical availability of solutions in different locations. Second, in the area of cloud operations, Luke, we've been very successful in establishing a modern, robust, and efficient enterprise cloud operation team consisting of the major cloud subject matter expertise that the industry is using. Some of those examples are DevSecOps engineers, cloud engineers, scrum masters, and the like, that the industry is simultaneously using for productive management of workloads in major CSP environments. As a result of all that, we've improved automation, efficiency, security, and management of workloads for critical and sensitive systems and hundreds of assets in the cloud, which includes enterprise patch management for changes and security remediation. We've also implemented solutions and automation for support and remediation of cloud incident trouble tickets for our systems. And we've especially improved cybersecurity and visibility into our cloud environments by implementing automated cloud-based notification feeds and dashboards for our network operations security center for improved response and visibility into our cloud environments. And finally, in the area of cloud computing services, Luke, we've been working hard on improving the customer experience, the tenants using our cloud-based services by creating a centralized portal for our customers that abstracts the complexity of managing our cloud environments, while simultaneously providing the details needed for migration, cost management, and services in the environments hosting critical applications. Those are just some of the areas that I like to highlight on this call, and the tremendous work of the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security that are providing vital services to the American public.
Very impressive. Quickly went from lift and shift to really maturing that environment in regards to the consumption and being able to go at the speed of mission, so to speak, and have that customer experience, we'll call it, in regards to consumption of the services, et cetera. So appreciate all the work that all the men and women are doing at DHS to keep the country safe and do it via these cloud services in some cases. Zach, speaking of cloud services and big compute, et cetera, you all have been on this journey for quite some time, have been leveraging this capability for years, way before big data, et cetera, were even a household name.
Right.
Give us a top line state of the state as to where NOAA is in the utilization of these capabilities.
Well, cloud services in NOAA right now are ubiquitous. We have high performance computing in the cloud. We have a special arrangement that we used to call big data program, but now we call it no open data dissemination, where for effectively no cost, we disseminate enormous amounts of information to the public and to industry to build on our data in the cloud. And we also have a general cloud utility contract where folks can get to any of the major cloud vendors, and we do. We use Google, we use Microsoft, we use Amazon, depending upon the program, depending upon the need. I'm really excited to be here today because I get to share the stage with not only amazing cloud practitioners and forward thinkers who are doing our level best to improve service to the taxpayer at lower cost with greater security, but I get to share the place with GSA, who we copied 12 years ago to go to the cloud. GSA was the first federal agency to, at least as far as I know, first federal agency to put email collaboration, calendaring in the cloud. And before there was a FedRAMP, we took their accreditation package, made our own risk assessment, and did the same thing. And at the time we did it 12 years ago, we were the largest, because I think we have more users than GSA does, at least at the time. So it's a great place to be. It's been a long journey. Most recently, we've moved our voice services into the cloud, replacing voice over IP and PBX. We moved to Google Voice. We have put almost all of our web presence behind content cloud distribution networks, and also in the cloud, which has been an amazing technology in terms of handling workloads that could be 1 billion or more hits a day when you have a hurricane approaching the East Coast of the United States, for example. And we've also this year established a cloud program office, which seems like something you might have done earlier, but we've been too busy moving to the cloud. And now we will be able to organize with a focus on customer experience, a focus on metrics, making sure that we're moving to the cloud as rapidly and as sensibly as one can, and organizing the services we provide. So in a way, NOAA is sort of like a department. We're not a cabinet level department, obviously. We're a bureau level organization inside the Department of Commerce. But we have organizations that used to be bureaus. The Weather Bureau is now the Weather Service, Satellite Bureau, Satellite Service, Fisheries Bureau, and so on. So it was very important to us to allow folks to move as quickly and safely as possible, but do it efficiently. So we weren't controlling or stopping the movement, but we were supporting them through enterprise-based networking, very fast pipes to have peering at key cloud peering points, security, review a package once, used across the entire bureau, acquisition, 3 big contracts, as I indicated earlier, authentication, identity, credential access management, same authentication across the board, architecture services, and in the program management office, not only to ensure customer experience, but to take advantage of the once in a generation opportunity you have when you go to the cloud, to take a look at what you're doing in IT itself. Why move something? You mentioned lift and shift earlier, Luke. Why move it at all if you can get rid of it? So optimize IT along the way and make sure that we're seizing the opportunity, because it won't come again for a while.
A tremendous amount of activity going on over there. We really do appreciate all the data that NOAA, and very important data that NOAA is serving up to the public to allow them reuse in a variety of third-party applications. Michelle, we can't do all this unless we have extensive partnering with very comprehensive companies such as yours. that enable all these great things to happen. Give us sort of a state of the state from where NetApp stands in regards to the various activities going on across the public sector.
Sure thing, Luke. And thank you to all the federal agencies for all the work that's been done. You know, we think about cloud as a journey, and it's like we've come through the first leg, but optimization's not over, and we have the opportunity to continue moving along this journey. So great work. When we look at what's going on and you know, the optimizations, I bucket it into 3 categories that we see where we're doing work with the agencies. First is on savings. The second is on simplification, right? We've come through and we've talked about, you know, going to the cloud, but as people have rapidly adopted all these services, right? It's a big, wide, heterogeneous environment that's gotten more complicated, and we need to simplify. And the third is around security. So on savings, it's, you know, some of the projects that we see are things like tiering, you know, like taking from your data center and tiering your data, making sure that you're using the most cost optimized approach, right? Whether that's on-prem or in the cloud, maybe for your cold storage. Backup, using cloud for backup is one of the areas that we still see a lot of agencies needing to move and take advantage of the cloud to offload some of the work and some of the things that were being done on site. And then the third area on savings is really in this, as people have moved to the cloud, is what are we doing relative to cloud optimizations? And we have tools like Cloud Checker that help people manage their financial spend, so they get visibility and transparency heterogeneously across all of their different cloud environments. Simplification, we know that we need more and more tools that are heterogeneous, that take advantage of both on-prem and in the cloud environment. NetApp took the approach that we partner greatly with the major hyperscalers. So we're the only enterprise storage operating system that's offered by Microsoft, Google, and AWS as a first-party service. And what that helps with is skills, right? We can't keep skilling up for different types of environment everywhere. How do you take the skills that you've developed over the years on-prem and use those in the cloud? Simplifications of tools like our Cloud Insights, which help people look across their storage and their compute environments and figure out what's going on, and also monitor for security anomalies that are going on. And BlueXP, we just released this as a management platform, a single plane that you can do both on-prem and in the cloud, right? So that's some of the areas that we're looking at. And then along the way is making sure that security is built in. We're using zero trust approaches to build our products so that as they get adopted into the infrastructures of the agencies, that things are there. Things like we've done the NSA CSFC testing to make sure that everything that we're delivering to our customers is as easy to consume for them and build in everything that they need, right? Whether it's the executive orders that are coming down on them or, you know, it's like, we know these are the things that we need to do to protect our environments and to, you know, to protect the mission. So that's just a few highlights from my perspective.
Really do appreciate that, and appreciate all the activity that's going on to create the ease of use, if you will. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about cloud optimization. And we're going to come up to you, Nick, and talk about cloud optimization, IT modernization at Pure Storage. And we call it Pure Storage, but we know it's way bigger than that, right, Nick?
Right. It's one of those unfortunate misnomers. You have to name your company something, but the truth of the matter is we've really always focused on data services, data management, and delivering efficiency, performance, and modernization in a sustainable fashion for our customers. And that continues to be our focus. This year, we've launched a couple of different products that are effectively doubling the data density of systems, which has the effect of not only reducing floor space by somewhere on the upwards of 50 to 90%, depending on which platform, but that also has the effect of driving down energy consumption in the data service arena by upwards of 90%. So we're building the technology necessary to affect data center optimization by creating the world's most dense, power efficient, and high performance data service capabilities. And that's providing our customers and the government with seamless, scalable, sustainable data mobility and management across all their environments, on-premises, cloud, managed service providers. We're giving them the capability to modernize their environments to sustainable platforms that can be consumed using OpEx rather than CapEx dollars. So getting the control and agility of on-premises infrastructure with the cloud cost model, but also the flexibility to move that data to shared service providers and other environments seamlessly and transparently. So as I said, that's reduced floor space by about 96%, power consumption by 85%, and satisfying cooling and e-waste disposal requirements by orders of magnitude over legacy technologies. And what we expect to do this year is, again, double the capacity of the storage technologies that we build in order to deliver these capabilities to the government. So that's, fundamental transformations in both technology as well as environmental impact and financial models for delivering service to customers have really been at the forefront of our transformation efforts in helping our customers achieve their overarching strategic data goals.
And we certainly do appreciate that. And I know these agencies really appreciate having a denser footprint at less cost, and certainly good for the environment. What's not to love there? So hats off to Pure Storage being a solid partner in regards to that. Lamont, we can't do all this unless we have the speeds and feeds and everything else associated to that. Tell us about the state of state from where Verizon sits and webbing all this together for us, so to speak.
Yeah, no, thanks, Luke. Yeah, this is a great opportunity because it gives the agencies the ability to start going and looking at how do they start modernizing a lot of their enterprise, because to be able to get to all these different connect all these different services out in the cloud, they've got to make sure that they have the right infrastructure to be able to connect to get to any of the cloud providers, any of the data centers, to be able to make sure that they have access to all the data and applications that they need to support the mission. So, I mean, a lot of the focus that we're seeing right now, and the great opportunity for us, is to partner with all of our government friends here to make sure that they have the right speeds and feeds to be able to get to, AWS's, the Microsofts, the Googles, to be able to get to that data. But to then also realize that there's a sprawl of this data and this information that's going out further towards the edge, and to be able to bring connectivity out to the computing edge, edge computing services, to be able to then realize some of these next, things of technology for VR, AR, VR, for drones, for mission that needs to be done in the field. These are still part of what would be that larger data center and cloud footprint that we're providing that connectivity to. So we're seeing a great opportunity to be able to help bring the agencies looking at their entire enterprise, looking at how they modernize that, how they get connectivity, have that connectivity to multiple providers, to be able to have that choice, to be able to deliver their data out to their end users and constituents. So that's where we're seeing a lot of the efforts and partnerships with the government.
And we appreciate the big pipes for the big data and the getting close to zero latency on the 5G capabilities, which just unlocks a whole new level of applications and capability for these operators. We're going to switch over and we're going to start talking about specific program. Dr. Lucas, we're going to start with you. You top-lined a lot of different things that are going on over at the department. We'd like you to focus on one program that you've been able to get over the fence, so to speak, and highlight that for the community here.
Yes, sir. Luke, over the last several years, we've been committed in investing in the optimization of access to resources in the various locations by improving and optimizing our network resources, which has provided the necessary foundation for optimizing our access to the resources in the hybrid compute environment I mentioned previously, which includes commercial cloud service provider environments. Luke, we implemented the DHS Cloud Access Point on the East Coast to provide direct high-speed fiber network access to cloud service providers, virtually a zero-hop solution. And we're currently implementing a second cloud access point on the West Coast to improve redundancy and availability for all of the critical missions that the Department of Homeland Security supports for the taxpayer. with an estimated completion during the summer of this year.
Mm.
You know, look, this work optimizes our enterprise network by providing direct access at the edge of our wide area network, eliminating additional network latency you previously stated, thus improving our access, user experience, and the performance of applications and systems in the cloud environments. You know, within the network architecture, we're implementing modern software-defined network systems that are virtualized, reducing the physical footprint of previous hardware and providing elasticity to add and reduce network functions for customers as needed. We're also leveraging network function virtualization as a part of the implementation that has allowed us to minimize the physical footprint in co-location facilities, thus reducing hosting costs while increasing functionality, throughput, and overall capacity of the network systems. Additionally, we've also migrated to a cloud-based VPN system that incorporates the functionality of the trusted internet connection requirements and allows for direct internet access from field locations, while also allowing for internal network access without the risk of DDoS attacks affecting the systems. This modernized network system architecture is being deployed with zero trust and microsegmentation in mind, and that provides a more secure network architecture. Next, we've also deployed a cloud native zero trust access service, Luke, in AWS and Azure GovCloud environments that's providing fast and secure app to app and app to internet connections across multi and hybrid cloud environments that allows applications to use the service locally instead of using our network infrastructure when it's needed. And then finally, we're constantly researching the modern network solutions to improve access, minimize latency, and improve security for our critical applications and systems we have in the cloud.
That's a handful there, and I love the simplification of the architecture, getting rid of the good old hairpin debacle that many of us were in years ago. And as they like to say, the best part is no part, right?
Yeah.
Michelle, let's roll over to you and talk about a specific program. I would imagine that NetApps is probably used in all of these agencies, certainly used in the majority of them. Tell us about a specific program you'd like to highlight.
Yeah, sure thing. Let me just pick on one that is a government organization responsible to support local and international warfighting and disaster relief. Soon to be released publicly, but they had three problems they were trying to solve. Or three problem areas they were trying to solve. It's technical. They couldn't complete replications due to software incompatibilities. It would time out, and they couldn't set up their continuity of operations in order to meet the recovery point objectives. They also had software that was out of date and security issues going throughout their organization, right? And they just didn't have the money to be able to modernize because their funding comes from various disparate sources. So collecting it from all the different sources and bringing it together to be able to do capital purchases and upgrade all at once was just a little bit more than they could take on. So second problem was funding, and the third problem was manpower. And, how do you go across? Because they had to have multiple locations. They couldn't consolidate any more than their 60 locations that they have. So how do they get the manpower to do this, how to fund and be able to do the upgrades that they needed? So what we were able to work with them on is implement a consumption-based model, a very flexible one that allows them, whether they wanted to play monthly or on an annual basis, to be able to set themselves up so they could modernize the infrastructure that they needed, reduce the security vulnerabilities, get the performance that they needed, upgrade everything across all the 60 sites, and be able to do that and all while moving to a much more flexible cost model so that they didn't have to have the funds up front, that they can pay for it out of their operational budget. So we implemented this solution. We were able to migrate all of their data with zero data loss, and more importantly, with zero interruption of service, right? Because we were able to come in and work with them to do it across their locations. Now where they've ended up is that they've got the infrastructure in place. instead of having to go through a procurement every time that they need additional capacity, they can just submit a change order and start utilizing that capacity that's there and available for them, right? So it gives them a very cloud-like environment, but but having modernized across their complex organization and environment. So
love the zero transition, or love the transition with zero downtime. I'm sure they appreciated that, and we do too. That's an interesting factoid and a very important one. Tom, I'm gonna roll up to you. We love the fact that you drank your own home brew years ago and implemented a lot of these capabilities that you then, as an agency, came out and set the direction for across the interagency. Give us an example of a specific program you'd like to highlight.
So I'm happy that I'm joining this panel with Bill Hunt. We passed each other in the hallway as I arrived at GSA, and he left me with a Cloud Smart policy or strategy document. And we've seen a lot of successes from multiple agencies when it comes to data center and cloud optimization programs. Because my team sits at the government-wide level within GSA, we have a really good access into all of the data center practitioners and cloud practitioners at the agency level. And we get a good sense of how successful data center and cloud optimization programs work for agencies. And here's what we're seeing for a successful agency implementation of an IT modernization program. And it's the adoption of co-location. Dr. Lucas mentioned this, that he closed his data center and moved into colo or cloud. Bill Hunt and SEC utilizes this strategically. And the fact that he knows, he referenced 10% of his inventory is in the cloud. The fact that he knows what his full inventory is a huge success.
Good catch.
Co-location can save a lot of money for agencies, all the while reducing the risk for the mission. Agencies have to be careful about vendor lock-in and rising prices, but co-location can really reduce operational costs, help with the moving sustainability environments, and move closer to the cloud and hybrid environments. A focus on portfolio management requires agencies to identify what applications are running in their data centers and facilitate further consolidation and optimization. And it requires agencies to identify costs that aren't necessarily known today, like the edge computing in a downtown building or network it relies on, the labor to maintain both the IT and the facilities to house that IT. And adopting a strategic approach to moving to the cloud. We've developed a cloud strategy guide to assist the developing agencies a strategy for successful cloud adoption. And in it, we cover major topics to consider in your cloud strategy, including current state assessments, business value to consider, risk frameworks, and other elements of the toolkit. We had agency participation, and those that adopt this type of approach tend to have more success in this area. And establishing a cloud center of excellence or an enterprise management team. Agencies should create a group of functional experts that drive the strategic adoption of cloud services within their organization. And this team champions the cloud transformation process, provides guidance to the transition, supports employee reskilling and training, and essentially is the central point for all organizational cloud efforts.
Really do appreciate the extended efforts there. Lamont, how about at Verizon? Give us a specific program you'd like to top line.
So a couple of things that we're working on right now with, we heard it earlier, it was like we talked about the network functional virtualization and moving things with SD-WAN so that people can then understand how to manage the performance of their applications. So we're working with a couple agencies on how do we then start bringing in the network and pulling that more, because that's becoming more part of the cloud infrastructure to be able to support the movement of these applications and the data. And then on top of that, we're also working with some agencies on, as was mentioned by Bill earlier, with like some of the advanced comms and the contact center stuff and moving those into the cloud now today to make sure that we're able to then realize the economies of scale to be able to then scale up and scale down these services quickly and on demand, so that then, you know, the constituents are able to then work with all the end users and all the folks out in the field to be able to deliver the services, take these calls in from Social Security, to be able to then take calls in for taxes, to be able to help make sure that we're working and getting that all the money flowing through the government today. So we're working to make sure that that's happening with all the agencies. But a lot of that is really trying to make sure that that network, that underlying network, the infrastructure is there to be able to support, whether it's from the Ethernet services, and make sure that's modernized to be there, leveraging all the wireless capabilities, the 4G, 5G, to make sure that we have the connectivity out to those end user devices. And then those are all able to be seen across that landscape and environment for the network to the cloud to the data centers, regardless of where they sit that data.
Fantastic, and we really do appreciate it. Bill, you were just called out there on your 10% capability as far as your transition so far. Give us an example, if you will, that you'd like to highlight in your tenure over there at the SEC.
Sure, absolutely. So thanks, Tom, for the kind words. I appreciate the shout out there. I'll say we've really got a bunch of unique opportunities being at the SEC. We are, of course, as I mentioned, a small agency. But the other thing that makes us unique is that we are a financial regulator, which means we get special pay and incentives. The other thing that we have that's special is, as a result, we hire a lot of superior expertise into our organization. Having that higher pay cap gives us the ability to get some of the best of the best. We also have a CIO and a CISO that really get it. Like, they really get it and aren't afraid of change. And that is so unique at a federal agency. I've been at a few. That is a very, very special thing. So as a result, as part of the Cloud Center of Excellence that we've stood up, we've been able to build from scratch a new cloud infrastructure team. And it is mind-bogglingly great. The team is just top-notch. It's like watching one of those superhero team-up montages as this has been coming together. Just the best of the best from private sector across government, being able to hire those folks in and really build an entirely greenfield program team up from scratch. I've done that a lot in the private sector. This is the first time I've seen it done in the public sector. It's very rare that you get to build something from scratch like this. And the results have been amazing. We're embracing all of these great buzzwords that everybody's been talking about: zero trust, infrastructure as code, a customer experience, all of those things baked in from day one into this new team, which has just been fantastic. And when I say things like we're doing customer experience, I don't mean, we're putting a sticker on it and doing feedback surveys. We're doing human-centered design. We have directly responsible individuals who are working directly with the customers to make sure that the needs are being fulfilled and that we're meeting them exactly where they are, working on developer experience, all of those sorts of things, so that rather than just trying to shove applications with your incumbent vendors into the cloud, you're really learning the lessons of how to be great at cloud and doing that upskilling as you go, which again is relatively unique rather than just, here you go, here's a cloud, go figure it out. That's been a really exciting opportunity for us and has just been amazing for our throughput. It's really improved the ability of the agency to deliver on its mission. So it's been really an incredible ride watching that come together.
Sometimes starting with a fresh piece of paper has a lot of advantages to it as you incorporate all these lessons learned, et cetera. We really do appreciate all the activity going on over there. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about cloud optimization and data center optimization, one and the same depending on who you're talking to. And we're talking about specific programs. Zach, I'd like to throw it over to you at NOAA to highlight a specific program you'd like to bring to the attention of the listening community.
Thank you, Luke. I'd like to highlight a program I mentioned earlier and delve into it just a little bit, the No Open Data Dissemination Program. This is something that I don't think you'll find elsewhere in government. It's a program where we take our data for the cost of getting our data to the cloud. We place it in the cloud, make it freely and openly available. It's stored and disseminated from the cloud to the public and to the economy at large at no cost to the American taxpayer except the cost to get the data to the cloud in the first place. It's a unique opportunity because there's so much data there. We've been an engine of the economy for decades, and this amps it up. What's exciting about it is not only does it democratize our data and be an engine for the American economy, but it also saves us from ourselves. Our data is absolutely crucial for protecting lives and livelihoods every day. We have more high impact systems than anybody else in the Commerce Department. We are moving those systems to the cloud thanks to FedRAMP having a high impact level. But we can also be victims of our own success. As the economy grows and uses our data, it places enormous pressures on the infrastructure that we have. And what we needed was a way to have the economy pay for itself, if you will. And so back in 2015, we went from the cooperative research and development agreement stage to contracts. I guess it was 2017, we signed 3 contracts. In 2019, it became operational. It's now in our strategic plan. It's being used by large portions of industry. An example of the kinds of volumes that you get, 1.2 to 1.5 billion sustained interactions per day on just one data set. Just one satellite's worth of data, 28 days straight, 1.2 to 1.5 billion sustained interactions in the cloud. And the most recent thing we've done is we've gotten great data analytics on how the economy is using our data. And what we've discovered is something that we thought was true, but now we know is true, that most of the access to our data that we put in the cloud is from inside the cloud, which is crucial because that is the business model that allows this to be self-sustaining, is folks coming in, using the data, staying in the cloud, making money for cloud providers, and not costing us any additional cost beyond getting the data there in the first place. At the most recent meeting of the American Meteorological Society, there were a number of success stories that were briefed by industry about no open data dissemination. One small company that takes our data, takes our models, and produces value-added products that allow you to determine and predict moisture and rainfall in the drought-stricken West, a very critical value-added product on top of what we do. And here's a quote: "We would not exist in our form remotely close to what we're doing without open source NOAA products, specifically their modeling. It is the backbone of everything we do, and we pull that data multiple times a day." So anyway, we're excited about that, and thank you for the opportunity to talk.
And we are too. And there's certainly not a person that isn't listening to this show, or a person in this country, or quite frankly on the planet Earth, that doesn't realize and appreciate how important this information is. And we're thankful that you're making it available to leverage into third-party capabilities to keep this country safe. I really do appreciate that. Nick at Pure Storage, give us an example of a activity that you would like to highlight in regards to cloud optimization, et cetera.
Thanks, Luke. And this is a really exciting one. So I want to highlight the Treasury Department, and particularly the Internal Revenue Service. So this past year has seen
a timely one.
I know, right? But this is really a tremendous transformation story. This past year has seen the operational implementation of the managed infrastructure and data services environment, and the IRS is now benefiting from an elastic, scalable, evergreen, and easily managed enterprise data service platform with no over provisioning, under provisioning, or forklift upgrades for tier 1 and tier 2 workloads. So they're now able to process vast amounts of data faster than their traditional environment enabled them to do so. And it's freed up a lot of resources to invest time in more mission critical activities and adapting to really ever-changing environments. So all of this while enjoying continuous innovation and modernization of their environment, predictable and manageable cost structure, and not having to manage the infrastructure at all. So this is an on-premises managed infrastructure environment that gives the IRS the flexibility and scalability that they need to adapt to, obviously, an ever-increasing amount of services that they need to offer, but never having to worry about whether or not what they're driving their data on, how they're leveraging their data, can keep up with that today or in the future. So we're very, very proud to see how quickly they affected that transformation, because really 18 months from adoption or signing the contract to operationalizing the environment is a breathtaking pace of innovation for any agency, any corporation of that size.
And if there's ever an agency that's going to surge, it's certainly the IRS during tax season. It's certainly NOAA during hurricane season or during an active hurricane, et cetera. And we really do appreciate the partnership that you've had there. Well, we only have a few more minutes, and we always like to wrap up and talk about the paint a picture of the future. 2 to 3 years out, what are we expecting at that point? Lamont, we're going to start with you at Verizon. What does that demand signal look like? What are you all preparing for to be able to offer and make available 2 to 3 years from now?
Yeah, so what we're going to see, and what we're looking forward to working on is like seeing that the full mobilized network and full mobilized usage of the data moving across everybody across the United States, no matter where we're working at, no matter what we're doing. I mean, there's about roughly 2 million government users that are out there today. We want to make sure that we're able to get that that information back and forth between each one of these data centers, between each one of these edge computing devices, edge computing locations, to make sure that we're able to deliver on whether it's a public safety mission, whether it's getting our taxes through, or just helping some constituents that are out in the environment trying to get their healthcare services. So it's really enabling the mobility of the end users to make sure that they're able to get to this data, no matter where it's residing in the data center or in the cloud, and to make sure that these services continue to grow and enhance and evolve to meet the needs of the American public.
And we appreciate the fast, reliable, and capable services that you all provide. Nick, Pure Storage, paint a picture of what it's going to look like 2 to 3 years now from where you all sit.
This is where things get really exciting. For those who don't pay attention to, how their tires get manufactured, this might have gone under the radar. We've reached a cost inflection point where modernized storage, flash-based storage, is now actually price competitive with or equal in price to spinning disk storage. So what we're going to see over the course of the next couple of years is an incredibly rapid adoption and shift, an acceleration of the shift, really, to modernized data service platforms. Michelle's probably going to nod her head because she sees it over at NetApp as well. But we're reaching a point now where system capacities are going to reach multiple petabytes per rack unit, which gives us an unprecedented amount of data density, an unprecedented amount of performance and efficiency that will wind up saving customers, not just government customers, but it will wind up saving customers billions of dollars in cost avoidance for energy consumption, space consumption, and a tremendous increase in overall productivity. As data can be leveraged more effectively, we get to outcomes that we want sooner. So over the course of the next couple of years, we're going to see the density of these platforms double starting this year, which is going to give us incredible capability as IT professionals to deliver data to our customers.
Well, we really do appreciate that, because anytime we can take $10 and get 3 times more out of it is appreciated, simply because the demand continues to increase. The pent up demand has always been there. Michelle, how about at NetApp? Tell us what it's going to look like 2 to 3 years from now.
Sure thing. And, Nick, I think we are very much like-minded, agree with everything he says. So, if I look at, I'll go in a little bit different direction then and expand on the different elements. If I think about the future, what we were told by the CIO of the organization that we implemented for was, I don't have to worry about my IT infrastructure anymore, right? I can focus on the mission and more enabling of the mission rather than worrying about what's going on underneath. And I can do that, right, if I look forward, because I've got a very simple and consistent environment. I've got a single tool or element where I can look across everything that I need. My infrastructure is secure because I've got AI-driven automation that can help to detect anomalies and respond against them. I've got tools that help me to automatically optimize my savings, right? Whether it should be cloud or on-prem, I'm automatically getting signals of where my data should reside, and I've got visibility into to my sustainability factors, like what's my energy utilization, so I can drive towards like a net carbon zero or carbon net zero environment, right? So if I've got all of that, then I can start worrying more about the mission.
Up the value chain. That's what we like to see, and we really do appreciate it. Zach, 2 questions for you. One, top priority for you as a CIO at NOAA this year, and then 2 to 3 years now, when you attend that conference again, what do you want those customers to say? What are they going to say 2 to 3 years from now as you all continue on this tear you're on in regards to cloud optimization, et cetera?
Thanks. We have a information resource management strategic plan, as I guess most federal agencies do. And our number one goal is to promote our people. And our people and IT folks and federal employees generally, post-pandemic, a lot of us are suffering burnout and stress. And as a CIO, one of the things that we can contribute is what Michelle was just talking about. Using the cloud and the advanced technologies possible to make jobs easier for the IT people. They can have more rewarding jobs if they're not worried about managing hardware. Instead, they could be focusing on the mission. Instead, they could be focusing on what we hope to be showing 2 to 3 years from now, the second part of your question, Luke, that we've reduced the time it takes for great ideas to go from research into products that serve the American people. That can be more rewarding. We can use cloud-based artificial intelligence to save our scientists time and drudgery. To protect seals, we have to look at thousands of images to find the seal and then figure out how well seals are doing. It's one of the things we do in fisheries. Computers can do that a lot faster, and the cloud makes that possible. As just one little example. Our value chain starts with an observation and ends with information that protects lives and livelihoods. And our administrator said the value chain isn't over until our information is being used by the American people. So NOD, which I described earlier, is an integral part of making sure that the data ends up getting used. My hope is that 2 to 3 years from now, when we look back, we'll see these changes that we made for the American people, for our employees to make their lives better, and actually have metrics that show that we are improving the time it takes from research to operations, and look back and know that we're also more secure because we've moved towards zero trust, which is a critical thing to minimize some of the risks of software as a service, where it's very easy to get into trouble if you're not careful. So last thing we'll be looking back at is our cloud program office, which we think will have eased the transition, provide the single face to a very complex range of opportunities, and know that we're doing the best job we can as we modernize via moving to cloud and optimized data centers.
Zach, that sounds awesome, and we're really looking forward to it. Dr. Lucas, Department of Homeland Security, 2 to 3 years from now, if you're hiring in a new engineer up there at headquarters, they take a look around. What are they going to see 2 to 3 years from now?
Lucas, I think it's an interesting question. I mean, as long as we remain vigilant in our investment and the pursuit of ongoing education for our federal employees, and ensuring this education is ingrained in our organizational learning DNA, and as long as we remain laser focused on the pursuit of industry and academic knowledge being created in these cloud environments, and effectively translate this knowledge into improved IT management, we will inevitably see an exponential growth, Luke, in the available automation support where the government will be able to deliver services faster to the American public and with less human intervention. And of course, with reduced errors, which translates to better and more accurate information for the public. Second, we've made great strides over the last several years in protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information and providing security and monitoring for protecting the application and systems supporting the organization and delivering service to the American public. but we will see an exponential growth, Luke, in the innovation and technology in the industry and cloud environments to enhance cybersecurity. All of this will translate into the government being able to leverage new technology like AI and cloud computing environments to provide improved cybersecurity management, enhanced visibility, and threat intelligence. I think inevitably, all of this means improved automation and support as we deliver solutions and capabilities for the American public, whether it's providing disaster assistance to those affected by natural disasters, providing safety and security for travelers, providing immigration services, or collaborating with state, local, territorial, and tribal organizations. So, I mean, that's what I see in the next 1 to 3 years. I think the future's bright. Automation is moving at the speed of innovation. As long as we continue to focus on that and implement that for the American public, I think we'll go a long way, Luke.
Appreciate that. And I'm sure you thought I forgot. Number one priority for this year is?
Number one priority this year is specifically focused on evolving modernization of our cloud computing environments and network architecture. I think when we break that down, one is we're going to continue to improve upon the user experience of our services, both internally and externally to the public. We're going to continue to move towards using containerization as the default in the cloud where applicable, and use cloud native technology when it makes sense. Third, we're going to continue to mature our use and implementation of zero trust in every part of the network fabric, Luke, and in our cloud environments. We're going to consistently stay engaged, ensure the department is on the cutting edge of the innovation being developed in the cloud service provider environments, specifically in engagement, research, and partnering with the industry. Some of the examples include, we've mentioned before, but it's worth a mention again, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the like. And then last but not least, we're going to complete our implementation of the second cloud access point on the West Coast so that we actually add that additional redundancy and availability for our critical systems and applications.
Love the industrial and strength configuration and the focus on those priorities. Bill, SEC, priority number one for you this year, and then tell us what it's going to look like 2 to 3 years from now. You've got 10% of your capability out in the cloud. We know you're in SEAL Team 6 mode. Top priority for you this year.
Sure. Let me take those together. So first and foremost, I spent the last 6 years studying the entire government-wide federal cloud portfolio end to end. So I don't want to give you my vision of 3 years. I want to give you an idea of what I hope we will be doing, and I'll give you two. So first and foremost, technology is just a way that we manage change. All business, government business, private sector business, it's all about change. Technology is a tool we use to manage that change. And we need the right people, we need the right skill set to be able to manage that technology at the end of the day. So my top priority, hands down, training, reskilling, upskilling. It's all about the people. Right now, there has never been a better time for government agencies to be hiring the best and the brightest engineers. Even if you don't have our special pay and benefits, every single federal agency should be taking advantage of the fact that all of the major companies are laying off their smartest engineers, their best AI people, their best DevSecOps people. Everyone should be hiring right now and using their budget to hire. So my hope is that more and more federal employees will have been former private sector employees, and we'll get the great talent coming into government to help us out. That is top priority number one. My other hope here, and I don't want to pick on anyone, but Zach said that we have a once in a lifetime opportunity for this sort of transformational change and moving to cloud. And I really hope that that is not the case. Cloud Smart has only one federal mandate that we put in there, and it is agencies should be regularly reviewing their application and data portfolio and rationalizing it down over and over again. This should be a constant process that you're doing all of the time. So the AppRat playbook that Tom's team put together is fantastic. I hope agencies will be doing this all of the time, managing their portfolio, moving up to managed services and not just treating cloud like a data center. I see too much of that, people lifting and shifting, getting out of that sort of habit and really using the tools. The whole purpose of going to this weird thing called cloud is so that the vendors can do more of the work for us and we as government employees can just manage that change. So that's what I'm hoping we're going to see in the next few years.
I really appreciate the aspiration and the focus on very much up the value chain. Tom, take us home. Tell us the number one priority for your agency, your entity right now this year, and then what you're expecting the ecosystem to be embarking on 2 to 3 years from now.
Okay. we run that community of practice, which has 4,000 feds as members, and we've been hearing from the community that cloud operations is still important. We need to do it better, faster, cheaper, and share those experiences across the agency. And so we've had the good fortune for the CIO Council to sponsor us putting together a cloud operations guidance white paper. And it's going to include incident management, service delivery, financial monitoring, and that financial monitoring is a really big piece. Because if you're not monitoring your cloud instances, you could be broke by the end of the year. And that'll continue to happen. You have to do it on a monthly basis. It takes organizational change management to do that, and several other disciplines. But the guide's also going to go into operation logging, monitoring, reporting, security management, patch management, landing zones, and provisioning and change management. I think it's important to write down these best experiences and share them. So when the new guy comes into the federal government, he's not just having to listen to seminars and catch it on video, but have it in a written word and share it amongst the community. And we're going to continue to talk about sustainability and data centers, and I include cloud with that. Cloud is nothing more than a data center, as I hear Bill Hunt say all the time. There's a lot of exciting work coming out of the government right now when it comes to sustainability, and we have full support of the current administration to make this a priority. We are working with groups like Federal Energy Management Program and DCEP to define what metrics agencies should use when measuring sustainability for federally owned data centers. And help them learn to optimize their metrics for maximum efficiency. And it's a tricky situation because if we focus too much on one thing, we may end up using resources in another area. We just see the collaboration between data center colo and agencies and cloud as being a good partnership, and we want to further explore that and make that easier for agencies to procure. And we want to make sure that we're procuring with the right companies that have sustainability goals, and they are meeting them, and they're providing metrics. Cloud providers today can provide a myriad of metrics to using off-the-shelf tools on their consoles, and we want to take advantage of that. And as Bill said, that IT portfolio management, you're always going to be making different decisions, and sometimes cloud's not the right fit for that, or you're going to be expanding and contracting in a lot of areas. And I'd like to give a shout out to Noah, who runs one of the best network backbone shared services within Commerce. They are exemplary. And they mentioned HPC and high performance computing, and we're going to be highlighting that story as well as other agencies on an HPC summit in April. And I know Noah is partnering with cloud providers to do high performance computing using AI and ML to do better weather forecasting. So we've got a lot of great stories to tell. I'd like to leave you with this: is our federal workforce works really hard every day, regardless of whether in the office or at home. And we are providing the best value to the taxpayer.
We really appreciate the leadership, Tom, at GSA, and your leadership in particular, as we've all gone on this journey. I'd like to thank all the guests here for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us on the program. I'd like to thank the sponsors as well for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make the program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank you, the listening audience, that tune in every single month. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum, which is part of the Federal News Network.